Good afternoon, and welcome to the specially called council meeting of the Orlando City Council on November 4th, 2024. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make the determination of a quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Here.
Commissioner Stewart?
Here.
Here. Rose? Here. Commissioner Burns?
Here.
Mayor Dyer?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, thank you for making your schedules available for this additional council meeting. It is a topic agenda. I was going to forego my regular council update, but given last week's tragic events, I wanted to address the Halloween night shooting tragedy. Our collective thoughts go out and our prayers go out to the families of the victims who senselessly and all their lives, and also to those who are injured in the shooting. Public safety, as always, is our top priority. As I said last week, absolutely frustrated by having this community again and share news that we've senselessly another life another silence. So you know that we will not tolerate crime in our city, and will leverage every single tool we have to keep our city safe. That's why I issued the local state of emergency for establishments within the downtown entertainment area that ended alcohol sales at midnight and implemented a curfew up to 1 o'clock a.m. That runs through Friday. We did not take this lightly, and we pursued a number of other measures before reaching this point. We will continue to evaluate the impacts of the current security measures in place and work with OPD to ensure that our residents and our patrons coming downtown are safe. I'm grateful for the Orlando police officers who acted swiftly and heroically to arrest the suspect, preventing the tragedy from worse. The strong presence of so many officers that night kept thousands of innocent people safe from their injuries, and having invested a lot of money in officer training and technology over the years to ensure that officers were equipped and prepared to respond to the crisis. The result of that investment was, if you watch the video, you'll see that our officers immediately saw the suspect, drew down on him, but knew that if they fired, they could possibly injure other people, and took other tactics and tackled the individual and brought him down without any innocent bystanders being injured during the course of subduing him. So our community owes a collective support for our heroes of that night, and that's the OPD. As anything that they want to add at this point, I'm happy to take that. We will move on. We have one item, and that is new business. Originally, we were scheduled to hear the second reading of the Dallas Boulevard annexation. However, city staff has been continuing discussions with county staff regarding the Chapter 164 conflict resolution process related to the Sunbridge annexation, and have been presented an opportunity to settle this dispute and advance a number of ongoing initiatives, including addressing one of our region's greatest challenges, and that's homelessness. The county voted last week 7-0 on the settlement agreement discussion related to that, but there are currently a number of shared city and county priorities, including meeting the needs of our homeless population, leveraging TDT to invest in our community venues, and managing the growth and plan of our and development of our area. The local interlocal agreement is our long-standing part to balance a lot of these issues. Recently, we had several meetings and discussions about the need for additional overnight homeless shelter beds. Finding a site to provide these services is never easy. However, we believe that the former work release site is a very optimal location, and we have been quite honestly, discussing that with the county for 6 or 7 years, probably. It's proximate to public transit and other service providers. It was a facility that housed people who were had been incarcerated and were now on work release. Some misinformation has gotten out about the shelter. I want to be clear that today's action, what we're doing today, does not automatically convert the shelter. We've got a long time to go on voting on a commitment to Orange County to commit this property to the city, to make this property available to the city. A 24/7 shelter. It will have wraparound services. Hopefully, we'll have a clinic there. It's not a facility. Great location for that. But we will have thorough discussion, the community outreach, a lot of outreach. Thinks this will end up being good for everybody. So additionally, the agreement advances TDT funding for Kia and Camping World. And as you know, these are economic drivers for the region. Kia had the biggest year, or is having the biggest year that they have ever had, more than 250 events. Camping World enhancements will allow us to pursue having the Jacksonville Jags entire season here in 27 and continuing to host the Florida Classic and FIFA and other bowl games that we have. This agreement does not advance the Dallas Boulevard annexation. We'll continue to work with Orange County on how to aggress our community as we grow and develop. As our community faces rapid growth, there are projections that we will have more than 700,000 additional new residents by 2050, and we need to ensure smart development. Needs our needs to try to make sure that the inevitable growth doesn't end up in rural parts of our state. We have a long history of collaboration with the county, and I am very pleased that we were able to partner with them. I want to thank Mayor Demings and the Orange County Commission for their collaboration and partnership in this. So I look forward to working with our county partners on these issues. Commissioners, we have a number of like to speak, so I thought I would go to the speakers and then have discussion after that.
Need a motion first before we go.
Yeah, we can go ahead and put a motion on the board.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Rose. Okay, we have, I think, a little over 10 people that would like to speak on this matter. So, Don, you get to be first up.
My name is Don White. I'm Vice President. Is the mic live?
Yeah, it's live.
It is? Okay,
There you
there.
go.
There, I hear it
Louder,
now.
though.
Okay. Vice President of Planning for Deseret Ranch. And I'm farmland good faith intent to plan for the future in partnership with Orlando is betrayed in this interlocal agreement and how it came about. We have filed for voluntary annexation. We were trusting repeated assurances that our application would be viewed favorably and that we would be treated fairly. Given those assurances, we invested significant time and resources in preparing and submitting our application. We were encouraged by the 6-1 vote of the first reading of this council to advance our application, and we expect today. Instead, you'll be voting to block by approving a surprise deal brokered by the city and county without talking to us. We were given no voice in the negotiations to represent our rights as citizen landowner. Our application became a bargaining chip, but we weren't invited to the table. We were given an opportunity to mutually explore options. We weren't given an opportunity to mutually explore options. Proposal we presented to the county last week to scale back our application to just under 8,000 acres, an area that was a closer planning horizon because it surrounds a CFX-approved interchange on 528, the beach line at Dallas Boulevard. Media coverage and vocal advocates mischaracterized our application, giving Orange County an unfounded excuse to demand that Orlando set it aside and give control back to the county. Critics wrongfully branded us as a developer looking to make a quick buck. Farmland Reserve is not a developer. We're smart growth planners committing to collaboratively establishing long-term to guide the creation of a sustainable future for the region. As an agricultural investment auxiliary of a religious organization, we're fortunate that we can take the time it takes to do things right. Since Orange declined multiple attempts and a number of years to plan with us, we're a city. Opponents also wrongly claim we're trying to evade Orange County's environmental controls. We are not. As agriculturalists, we're devoted to conserving natural resources. In discussions with the county, we showed them how we've even applied their environmental land stewardship program to our planning. We did the same at a recent meeting with city staff, and we've said in all our planning, it comes first. That's why Audubon of Florida endorsed our Osceola County plan in 2016 after a robust 2-year public process. Understanding of our commitments to long-range planning and protecting. We look forward to working with Orlando and Orange County in the months and years to come. We hope that the new collaboration begins with our being part of the discussions regarding future annexations on formulation of the joint planning agreement calling for the interlocal agreement. Thank you.
Don.
Thank you.
Martha R. And Tom Beirut after that.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Martha R., CEO of the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida and the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness. As you all know, that results in the number of people experiencing homelessness that we see in this community, that we have in our region, has many somewhat simple but very hard to implement solutions. In this community, we've reached a point in which jurisdictions and the community at large must invest in both affordable housing and open access shelter. I wanted to speak today to affirm that the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida and the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness are committed to working with you to ensure that any new open access shelter will be the best in our state. As you know, the Commission on Homelessness has been hosting a regional task force that is committed to encouraging the development of open access shelters across the 3-county region. Our data tells us that 75% of the people who are experiencing homeless right now, it is their first time experiencing homelessness. They're losing their housing in all 3 counties, in every municipality, and in every district. As families, veterans, young adults, seniors all struggle to pay the rent in a market that is still escalating. Persons experiencing homelessness are best helped when they can receive the shelter and services that they need close to their natural support systems and then the communities that they. For this reason, we will continue to encourage more new shelters, more open access shelters across all 3 counties to support our community members experiencing homelessness, while permanent housing options are being identified, improved, and developed. We're grateful that the city and Orange County are working together to identify both shelter and housing options for our vulnerable neighbors. We're committed to working with you to maximize the opportunity shelters as well as additional affordable housing subsidies and developments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Martha. Tom Beirut.
Yes, can you hear me all right?
N-A-R-U-T. Nope.
Yes, Nara.
James Krozik.
Mayor, Mr. Narut is on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Again, Tom Narrett, 14620 Joe Sayre Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32826. I wanted to speak in favor today of what you're doing with the annexation process, and specifically thank you and all of the commissioners in your efforts in pulling back on the 52,000 acre voluntary annexation and moving conversations towards that interlocal agreement effort. So I can't thank you enough for that. I'm hoping through this effort, the citizens and the organization Save Orange County are proving that we are not an anti-development organization. Rather, we are supporting smart development. This is why the proposed amendment on our ballots is focused on unplanned annexations, not joint, not joint planning agreements. So again, it's those unplanned efforts, or knee jerks, as I called them in the last public comment, that we're after avoiding. All team members are highly focused on encouraging and associated positive tax revenue dollars toward the city and urban core. We all know that helps drive success for the city, public transit, roadways, and more. That success for the city is what our annexation amendment currently on the ballot is designed to do. Of course, we all know anything worth doing is worth planning. Anything jointly planned has the highest odds of being a success for the city, the county, and both their residents. So again, I sincerely thank you, and I hope you further support the mission by voting yes on questions 4, 8, 9, and 10 on the ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. James Krozik. Kyle Steele after that.
James Krozik, concerned citizen. As a fourth-generation Orlando native, I have a deep love and concern for our city. That love drove me to volunteer with our SoDo District Main Street program, at the time called Downtown South. Since then, I've dedicated over 12 years volunteering on that board, serving as president for 2 terms, and I'm extremely proud of what has been accomplished so far. After that, I had the privilege to serve on the city's Neighborhood Improvement District Board for over 5 years, where we crafted many of the improvement plans that you see in action today. Over this nearly 20 years of volunteering and hard work to make SoDo a better place, I have always enjoyed working with the city and found joy in the community of people striving to make it better today. But I am here today because I was absolutely shocked to hear that something as important as a homeless shelter was being quietly slipped through the political process without any community engagement and what seems like a deliberate attempt to avoid public scrutiny. The agreement itself notes the need for, quote, appropriate community engagement to, quote, reach community consensus. Is this what you would call appropriate community engagement? These meetings were prepared using the minimum legally required timeframes, avoiding community feedback, even going so far as to schedule this special single-item meeting the day before a national election. That is not community engagement. The SoDo District and the area families, businesses, schools, and churches have continually demonstrated their concern and love for the area. We have an amazing community working together every day to make SoDo better, yet here we are, desperately fighting for a voice in this landmark decision you are trying to pass in the... This is not good governance. This is not how major decisions like this should happen. Many of you have been in those seats for a long time. I trust you know in your heart that this is a very raw deal for SoDo. I struggle to understand why you are doing this. Please let us work together on this. If you decide you have to pass this agreement today, I have 2 recommendations. Number 1 is the simplest option. Strike item E from the agreement and allow for real community engagement on how we work together to help our homeless. Number 2 is a more bold idea. If you are sincere about your concern for the homeless and creating sustainable solutions, then amend this agreement to earmark a mere 1% of the total dollars to use on a multitude of initiatives to help end homelessness in Orlando. That $6.26 million could bolster many existing organizations like United Against Poverty, located in SoDo, as well as starting several new programs and seeding impactful change in the city beautiful. That would be something we could all be proud of. Please do not approve this agreement as presented. Let us continue to work together to improve our city for all residents and businesses. Thank you.
I appreciate your service in the SoDo district, but let me just restate what I said at the very beginning. This is step 1. This is the county making this facility available to the city. That is all it is. We have all the processes that will have to be voted on by your council. We'll have to figure out whether we can make this work or not work. So there is a lot of community output and opportunities for input yet to come. This is, well, the county voted on it and we have voted on it, but this is the very first step in the process. Okay, Kyle Steele.
Perfect. Everybody can.
Is he on? Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Kyle Steele. I'm a homeowner and also business owner located there in Soto, actually about 100 yards from the proposed facility, low barrier homeless shelter. And so today I just wanted to express my concerns about the proposed conversion of the Work Release Center into a regional low barrier homeless shelter. While I do understand the pressing need to address homelessness, especially through my work with Rally, where we work with issues like this, I believe that the current plan as it stands poses significant risks to the safety, security, and the businesses and property values of the community that I invest in or am invested in, particularly the Soto neighborhood. Some of the specific areas of concern for me that I've lived in the last 3 years of being in part of that community. It's just around homelessness is around the loitering and negative encounters that myself and my family and other residents oftentimes experience. A lot of this we understand is due to the proximity where we live to the hospital and understanding that the community currently that they serve a segment of the population, homeless population. It also leads to frequent encounters at local businesses, such as right a stone's throw from my house, at the Target, at the 7-Eleven, the Dunkin' Donuts. We oftentimes encounter individuals unexpectedly who are homeless, who are very openly struggling with addiction, mental health issues, sometimes aggressive behaviors. We also have had individuals try to enter our home a couple of occasions who were homeless obviously struggling from mental health or addicted. Try to open our door up at 3 a.m. in the morning, which was captured on our ring cam. We've seen an increase in property theft. There's oftentimes packages that are taken from our community that's caught on camera from the homeless community. So much so that I then take packages and now send them to my office because I just can't trust them in front of the home that I've invested in. And then also some of the littering, just the littering that takes place often around my property, on my property. And so I'm just imagining what the impact of a regional homeless shelter would have just on those items. And so transforming the center into a regional low barrier homeless shelter will only increase the activities I talked about and ultimately lead to an increased negative impact on the lives of residents, including myself, business owners, including myself, and the property values in our community. And so what I say in the conclusion is to mitigate these concerns. I request that the vote to approve this agreement be delayed to ensure sufficient time for public comment and discourse about how to modify the agreement best and to develop and secure assurances to the residents and the businesses that protect us. And that's it. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Billy Whelan, then Carol Whelan, then Casey Kurtz.
Afternoon, Mayor. Afternoon, Council. I'm Billy Whelan. I live at 1829 Kalerna Court. I live about 2,500 feet from the proposed shelter. I speak as a lifelong resident of Orlando and a graduate of Boone High School. I'm also an attorney with an office in downtown Orlando. I have read the statements coming out of the board and from the mayor himself, and I invite the mayor to actually travel to the area in which they're proposing to put 300 or more unhoused people. While there are a few holdouts in that area that are commercial, as he stated, he and this board are either ignorant or asleep at the wheel, because 1,000 feet away, the city of Orlando approved multiple single-family duplexes to be built. Those same duplexes are selling for more than $500,000. The facility literally sits across the street from East Esther Street, which is lined with single-family homes. Ms. Sheehan herself must be aware, and the other members of the board, because there were multiple times that they traveled to this area, unfortunately, during the Pulse nightclub tragedy. While I'm sure members of this board disagree with the concerns voiced today about the facility, what they cannot dispute is the complete and utter lack of research, impact studies, and needs assessments that have been completed when it comes to the East Cayley property. On or around September 15th, the city staff and various nonprofits specifically looked at more than 20 properties to determine which sites were best, which sites truly answered the calls of the unhoused in our community. And you all must be aware of this list. Guess what was not on this list of 23 sites? East Cayley Street. You sit here prepared to make a decision that will forever impact your constituents, yet you have not done the work to see if your last-minute plan that will cost taxpayers an estimated $3.5 million to renovate the facility will even work. To share a word from my practice, it's negligent, it's irresponsible. The last-minute deal was simply reached so the commission could give a handout through tourist tax dollars to the rich and powerful in the community. That handout being $226 million in money for improvements to a basketball arena that houses a team $2 to $3 billion. And the football stadium that is only produced a handful of times per year that could receive $400 million. I implore each and every one of you to read this interlocal agreement. And as the prior speaker stated, I draw your attention specifically to Section 3, Part E, which states that the City of Orlando must conduct appropriate community engagement and reach a community consensus. What the board has done to meet that goal? Nothing to date. I understand the mayor says in this first step in the process, but this is the vote of a document that will specifically talk about what is coming down the pipeline. Committed specifically, as the Sheehan specifically, has attended meetings in our community about road construction, flooding, peacocks, yet this board does not find it important to hold community meetings about this issue. We know how the citizens that have already spoken feel today, and we know how Orlando Health is in opposition to this very plan. All the residents of this community are asking is to perform a proper and appropriate investigation before making such a monumental decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn Whelan, Casey Kurtz, Chelsea Cantilli.
All right, my name is Caroline Wieland. I live at 1829 Kalerna Court, right off Cayley Street. I'm expressing my concern about the homeless shelter proposed for Cayley Street. I want to acknowledge to this council my understanding that the homeless window is in Orlando. I live very real. My children go to high school downtown, not a day that our family doesn't encounter someone who's living on the streets. My own family spent yesterday packing for the hygiene kits for the homeless. We turn away from those and turn away from this issue in our family. But I do not see the particular using this particular for a low barrier shelter, including being required to accept individuals from all over Orange County, increasing the concentration of homeless people in our neighborhood. I find the location questionable due to its proximity to family neighborhoods, one of them being mine, the Blankner and Boone school campuses, so Main Street businesses for many of the challenges of the continents with this population already feel insurmountable, and really feeding the homeless. All neighborhoods have businesses and schools, but SODO also has ORMC's emergency room. So people travel from all over to receive medical care there, often let out onto our streets and overburdening our particular neighborhood. So I would also be curious to review real data, like needs assessments of this population indicating that it is an ideal use of this site. I do certainly expect to be given further opportunity to take part in community discussion on this matter. For me, it begs the question, is this really the best place and the right place, or is it more of an easy place to put this facility? The reality is many of the people who access this shelter are earnestly trying to get back on their feet. Many also will be struggling with drug addiction or mental illness, are unable to control themselves in a civil manner on the street, or are willing to commit crimes. So I'm here today as a concerned resident and mom. As you move forward in this decision, these honors and commitment to engage the SODO community, I do think you will consider valid concerns with the residents there. Even now, in our neighborhood, I can admit I do not always feel safe in SODO. There's few places you can simply run errands without being approached, often aggressively, and it can be frightening, especially when you have children with you. So for me, it is hard to believe opening this facility will improve our situation, and for that reason, I cannot support it. Thank you.
Casey Kurtz, Chelsea Cantilli, Octavian Cantilli.
Hi, Casey Kurtz here, concerned resident of 11 West Harding Street. I'm here to express my serious concerns about the proposed conversion of the Work Release Center into a homeless shelter. While I understand to address this homelessness, I believe the current plan to use the building on Cayley Street would have a negative impact on the SODO community and would pose significant risk to the safety, security, and property values of the people who live and work in specifically this SODO community. serious concerns about safety and security that have already been mentioned by other speakers who have spoken out about this, including loitering. There already is a homeless population that you do see on the Cayley streets, and as well as in the previous speaker just mentioned. They're just meant to sometimes feel safe in this area, so adding another 300 residents or beds to this city or this would not be the best interest of our safety. The scale of the facility, the neighborhood cannot handle this many homelessness in property values. Will be negatively impacted in this area as well as the surrounding areas. Long-term financial consequences for homeowners and businesses in this community. I implore the city and the council to delay this vote to ensure that the proper steps are being made to confirm that the new work release building is the best option for this, and that will have very small negative impacts on our community moving forward.
Okay, are you Chelsea?
Thank you. Chelsea Cantilli, 443 Page Street. I'm here to oppose the suggested homeless shelter on 130 Cayley that would house up to 300 people. It's a rule of economics that if you subsidize something, you'll get more of it. If we subsidize homeless people living in our downtown neighborhood, we will get more. As of this morning, in area codes 32806 and 32801, there are 23 registered sex offenders with addresses listed as temporary or transient. We do not need sex offenders hanging out on our playgrounds. In addition, they use drugs. One of the most common is fentanyl, which is administered via injection. They would discard dirty needles where children and dogs can step on them and become infected with blood-borne diseases. The job of our downtown Orlando representatives is to advocate for the citizens of downtown Orlando, and we want safe, family-friendly, and pet-friendly neighborhoods. It is not our responsibility to attract homeless people to our community where they will cause nothing but crime, litter, and declining property values. According to the new law passed this HB 1365, if a municipality allows homeless encampments that increase crime or damage property values, any citizen or business or the Attorney General may bring a civil suit against the municipality, and the court may award court cost and attorney fees. We are opposed to bringing a new homeless shelter and the accompanying criminal activity in our neighborhood, and you guys will think a lot of me because I'm going to call the cops every time I see them. Thank you.
Tilly.
Hi, my name is Octavian Cantilli. I don't have anything formally. I can tell you a few stories. So 443 Page is right on Page and Osceola, about 3 blocks away from Wadeview Park. We have 5 kids. 4 of them already went through Blakener Boone. We have one that's little, he hasn't started that process yet. We also have 3 dogs. We walk our dogs through Wadeview Park literally 3 times a day. Literally every day, those pavilions are people, every single day. There's also, seems to be a migration from Michigan Street to Wadeview Park every morning, and then they seem to go back to Michigan Street every evening. So this is before this shelter is already in place. I don't know, at least every other day, because I'm finding another huge amount of trash in one of the pavilions, or a homeless person is yelling at another homeless person. I'm sick of it. These are homes that are between $500 and $2 million, and you guys are proposing building another huge homeless shelter that would obviously migrate them to the closest public park, which is Wadeview Park. It makes 0 sense to me. I don't need a formal write-up to explain that to you guys. And literally, I just found out about this on Saturday. Literally, my wife and I went. She made a little flyer. She went door to door on Saturday and then a good part of Sunday. We spoke with at least 120 different neighbors. Every single one of them were against this. We didn't encounter a single person that was like, wow, I know about that. I'm in for that. That makes perfect sense. So I'm just shocked that I'm even having to be here to talk about this, but here I am. So like my wife said, if you guys agree to this, you'll be seeing a lot of this, and it will become a very huge priority in my existence to fight it. So there you have it.
Megan Core.
Hello, I'm Megan Core, 6 Southwest 23, resident of Delaney Park, and my husband also has a business in this area, wanting to express my opposition to the proposal to place a new homeless shelter on Cayley Avenue. I understand the need for more emergency shelter beds in Orange County, but as a downtown neighborhood, we already see, and 300 new beds will only worsen it. I walk my 4-year-old son in Lake Lucerne. We step over trash and have to avoid sometimes sleeping homeless individuals. But to my surprise, just a couple weeks ago, literally, I walked out at 6:30 in the morning to go to work, and there was a gentleman actively rummaging through my husband's vehicle, to which I called 911. Respond. This is the regular life of living downtown. We know that this is an issue, and we've dealt with it. However, I think many of us have reached our limits of what we can deal with, and adding 300 new beds is surely to worsen that. It'll push out long-term residents and families who've invested decades into improving our neighborhood out of our community in search of somewhere safer for them and their families. As been discussed before, there's a K-8 school just 1.5 miles from this site, along with Boone High School, which is even closer. I feel this presents a significant safety concern as it's a community school and many of these children walk and bike to school, sometimes in the dark during daylight savings. The city's also crippled businesses along the stretch of the past 3 years with its road construction, which still is not complete. In their backyard will likely force their closure and handicap our ability as a neighbor small businesses. I've sat here as well over the last few weeks and heard some grand plans for a significant investment in downtown with DT. We want to make our city more pedestrian and bike friendly and draw more people to downtown. People and businesses aren't avoiding downtown because of a lack of pocket parks. They're avoiding downtown. They don't feel safe. And adding 300 more shelter beds seems counterintuitive to the future plans of this city. Downtown Orlando already holds the majority of emergency shelter beds in this county. I'm sympathetic to this population. I volunteer with this. I treat them and see them with compassion in the emergency. But I think the case to take some more responsibility and find an alternate location, and I think the city can be a more appropriate place for this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Trini.
Good afternoon. Trini Quiroz, 2000 Hillcrest, Orlando. Government is intended for the common good, for the protection, safety, prosperity, and happiness of the people, and not for the profit, honor, or private interest or gain of any one man, family, or classes of men. This was said by President John Adams, founding father. As a graduate of a university that was the fourth being founded in this nation, Rutgers University, with a degree in political science and other areas, I had not ceased to see how government takes oath of office. Some of you have been, with the exception of District 5 and 6, 2 decades in power, and the city has seen the progress and what you have done. My speech was going to be different, but I want to congratulate with all my heart, my prayers and my wishes to every warrior that can stand here before, now, and after, for those who are needed, for those who everybody turns their way out, which are the homeless. I've been over 30 years residing in this area, and I have dedicated my life to help the homeless, the needy, the one that nobody cares. Why is it that we go decade after decade with the same problem? The needy are now at the end of the rope. What is the city of Orlando and Orange County intending to do except put words in paper and on a microphone? Please, I'm going to end this thing by saying this, and I hope that we have respect for it. It's found in the book of Matthew, chapter 25, 42 and 46. I was hungry, and you did not feed me. I was thirsty, and you did not give me to drink. I was a stranger, and you rejected me. I was naked, and you did not provide clothing for me. I was in prison unjustly, and no one went to visit. And they replied, the ones that were at the lips, Lord, when did we see you like that? And the Lord said, when you did it to my children, you did it to me. Depart from me, doers of iniquity. Let that not be in the heads of anyone who does not have human empathy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ansley Miller and then Kristen Jones. Ansley Miller, this says a live one, Madam Clerk. No Ansley Miller? How about Kristen Jones?
Good afternoon, Kristen Jones. I'm from 11 West Harding Street. And particularly what I'd like to talk about too is Section E. I think the increase of homeless population in the Soto area that would arise from the release center on Cayley Ave being converted to a shelter would drastically affect the security and safety of the members of my community, including myself. But in lieu of reiterating the other points that have been made here, I also think that it could pose a negative safety aspect to the homeless themselves. Many of the homeless population, as someone rides my bicycle from Soto to downtown to work every day, I see that many of them are not mentally there all the time. Some of them are unstable, and that the property that's chosen is really in close proximity to an unprotected area of the tracks where there's no sidewalk, and they've already started in smaller numbers congregating. And at nighttime especially, I take the route down Division Ave and then through Cayley to come to my house, and they've already started congregating along and near where the tracks are. And I think posing a shelter at the location is inviting potential tragedy in the future. I would invite the board to strike Section E from the current vote today, or to delay the vote so that we can further assure the community and best serve the population of the decisions that we'll make around that area. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And that was the last speaker request that we had, so we are on discussion. Okay, no requests. Commissioner Sheehan?
Yes, I understand the concern. I mean, Soto has been a area of concern, and I supported the NID, and I've been very engaged in bringing new business, and I'm proud of a lot of the progress that's been made in the area. I think it's a beautiful area. It used to be wig shops and a hot mess, to be quite honest, and I'm glad a lot of progress that's been made. I agree with what a lot of the speakers have said. There is a lot of homeless population there. There are people hanging out in Delaney and Wakeview. And this is to get them out of the neighborhood and into a facility. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, let's let people flop all over the sidewalk and we don't want to see them, but we don't have a place to house them either. So I have some level of experience with this issue. There was a homeless teen shelter that was adjacent to my neighborhood in Colonial Town. And it was terrible. It was poorly run. The children that were going there were allowed to use drugs. They were being abused and molested. It was a horrible place. So years later, when another facility wanted to come into my district, I said, we aren't going to have any of that. We're not going to be hurting people. We're not going to be housing people so they can be trafficked. This needs to be a well-run place that takes care of kids. And it's less than a half mile from my house, and it's called the Zebra Coalition. It's been an amazing success. So I take this very seriously. I've been a part of the solution to a problem that was in my neighborhood. I do not wish to create a problem for anyone that lives in the surrounding neighborhoods or the businesses, because I believe in this area. I don't live there, but I know that these facilities can help people. And we do have a huge homeless problem. And like everybody, it's always not in my backyard. Not here, not there. But this did used to be a work release center. This is a secure facility. And I think if we can do it right anywhere, it would be here. Now, Officer Corporal Eddie Rosado and I do crime stats for every single neighborhood every single month. And we're also watching all the reports. We know where there's crime. How I found out about why the other facility was so bad was because we followed the crime reports. We will be watching this very, very carefully as this moves forward. We'll be listening to the community input. If this becomes a crime problem, I'll be the first one screaming to have it shut down. But I also want to give us the opportunity to do it right, because I've seen a poorly run facility cause a problem for my neighborhood, and then I have seen a well-run facility help a lot of people get their lives together. So that's kind of where I'm at today. I look forward to community input, even though I know it's going to be difficult because I know people don't want it in their backyard. But I also know that when I walk through Soto, I see the same problems a lot of y'all have brought up, and I'd rather get it off the street and get people into assistance, to help, rather than in your parks and rather than in your streets and rather behind your businesses. So I want this to be such a well-run shelter that you don't even know it's there. But it will take care of a problem that needs to get off the street. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, Mayor, and that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rose.
I want to echo the concerns and reassure this community that we are going to do our best to make sure this is the best facility. For those that don't know, I am a Paramore resident where we house 1,100 beds every single night. As a safety protocol, I have a lock on my mailbox. I'm going to talk about our personal experience and how this is an opportunity for this community. I've had encampments on my street. This is a community that we live with, and this is an opportunity to provide dignity to a community that needs it. Unhoused population suffers because we can provide all the defenses in the world, but then they have to go to an undignified place, whether it's under our highways, whether it's in someone's backyard. This is an opportunity for us as a city to stand up and say we're providing a place for people to sleep at night, providing dignity. This will not just be a shelter where we will provide wraparound services. This isn't just a place for someone to come and hang out. This is a place for individuals to get the services and the help that they need. I've experienced homelessness. This is an opportunity. I was not avoided this same opportunity because in Osceola County, there are no shelters. You either sleep in a hotel, or you sleep in your car, or you sleep in the street somewhere. This is an opportunity in a collaboration and partnership with Orange County to be able to provide beds for individuals in this community. The count done in January 2024 is that 754 unhoused individuals live in our community. 754. The last count done right here in the CRA, there were 375 individuals. We have to provide a place for individuals. This is the first step. This is the agreement for us to accept from the county, and I want to thank Mayor Dyer County, Demings, Orange County for working through this effort. When I was elected and I'll take the proposal elected, I sent the proposal to Orange County, and here we are today. I would say this, I want to commend Lisa Portelli for working hard in this community, and she will work with the rest of the staff, Martha R., and the other services within this community to make sure this is a facility that the community is safe. If I have to sit in part to be part as well to talk about the issues and the concerns, this is a place for people to get off of the street. This is a response to a law that says we have to have somewhere for the individuals to go if 911 is called. So I want to reassure the city and this community that this is going to be the best collaboration that you've seen. And I'm going to work side by side with Commissioner Sheehan through this process to make sure that everyone in this community feels safe. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion, hearing none. Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of questions that staff couldn't answer for me, so perhaps you can, or somebody from staff, or what I got briefed earlier. And before I do that, those questions, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming in and sharing your opinions in an appropriate and respectful manner. So thank you all for getting involved. But when I look at this agreement in different sections 3C, the joint planning agreement, we've done that with the county before. I'm confident we can do that again. We've done that successfully, so I'm fine with that. On 3D with the TDT dollars, help me. It's already been allocated on earlier this year. Is that to say if we don't approve this, they can rescind that allocation?
No, what the county has done in regard to the TDT is they have up to 400 million and up to 226 million are an appropriate use for TDT. They still have to vote to allocate it.
Which means they can change their mind if we don't approve this.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. On the drop-in center, a couple of questions, and maybe Lisa can help me with these. How long has this facility been idle under the county's ownership?
Commissioner, I can tell you it's been 5 to 7 years that we've been talking to the county about using this.
Understood. And so I guess I'm curious, in this agreement it says both the city and county have access for drop-off. Are there any allocations to that? Or how does that work?
No, there's been no discussions yet to confirm how that will work. Drop-offs.
The concern
it is
I
a
have
response to the state law. Yeah.
Right, and I understand that some of that will. The concern I have if you're homeless and the sheriff brings 2 or 3 homeless people to this facility, is it realistic to think they will, after their services, et cetera, they'll go back to Apopka? Or is it more realistic to think they're going to stay in that neighborhood?
I know that hard to open a shelter. I would hope that they would not have to do that, but I can't really theorize or answer your question directly either with regard to where they would go. Our hope receive housing services and go from the shelter into various supportive housing, permanent supportive housing, transitional affordable apartments.
And that's what I'm trying to put together. Lisa, is if it's been sitting for 7 years idle, now all of a sudden the county wants access. If it was that key, why have they not done something before? And I don't think it's monetary, and I'm just curious, if we can explore why.
We'd have some renovations to code.
Thank you. Do we know who will operate this on behalf of the city and the county?
No,
Don't
sir.
know that yet. Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, I'll save on that. I want to hear some more questions before. I've got some opinions, but I'll hold off on.
Commissioner, this does not eliminate the need for additional shelter. We still encourage our partners at City County and other cities in Osceola to do likewise in creating additional shelter beds.
Mayor, you and I are together. We've established of the money we receive from the federal government. We spent $8 million different homeless initiatives. And unfortunately, that has not been matched by the county. I'm sure that it's just peculiar now that they want to have access to a shelter that they've not done anything with for at least 5 years. As one individual said, this discussion, a lot more discussion, I think, and more input from the community, which I know you've said we're going to do. But I'm curious what that community meeting will look like. I suspect, like most things, people that are in favor don't show up. People that are opposed show up en masse. We see that quite often.
But I think, Commissioner, to show what security measures will be taken, what wraparound services, whether we can get a clinic in there, some of the people that are using the emergency room at ORMC for their primary care.
So I guess the question I have, does it make sense to omit 3E?
No.
Okay. Well, all I can say is I saw some of the county things, and those commissioners had questions about the operation. We have questions about the operation. Nobody seems to know how it's going
Commissioner,
to
I can
operate.
assure you
So,
the county's not pulling something over on us. We were the driver in asking for this.
not suggesting they are. I'm suggesting there's a lot of unknowns that nobody has explored yet.
Well, no doubt about that, and again, we're at the first step.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Ortiz?
I'm going to divide my discussion in two parts. I want to start with Desiree. We had a great plan. Conservation, 28%, agriculture, 13%, reservoirs, 5%. Total, all in all, is 61% of that. 35% was the only net urban developable land to which it was going to take 15 years to develop, because what was assigned to be developed, and I don't know if the public are getting this, was already established by Orange County. So we're going to wait 15 years to have any development, to a total of 39%. The other 61% was going to be untouched. It was going to be divided between conservation, agriculture, reservoirs, greenway parks, and other spaces. 4% for transportation, which we had nothing to do with that either, as a state and a county. I don't get why this is not a good deal, bringing it to the city, because I don't know who's counting, but every week we're getting thousands of people moving to the Central Florida region. I don't know where we're going to stack those people. Maybe people on top of people, I don't know, because there's no space. So this is good planning. We're not touching it for 15 years. Aquifer and St. John's River management people, go and talk to these agencies. That's not going to affect anything. Development is going to affect it, but we have not ordered any development. We have not approved any development. 15 years. Development is already established to be taking place, was done by the county. So why are we not agreeing on this? All right, so we're not agreeing because now we're exchanging for what it seems to be a good deal, but let's review this. And this comes from the Homeless Services Network. The city of Orlando has 620 already, and we're going to add another 300 if this was to pass. Orange County, as big as they are, they're only 9 beds. They have almost 1.5 million people in the county, and they only have 64 beds. We are only 325,000 people. We have 629. Correct me if I'm wrong, Martha, because I think that came from your stats. Osceola County has 49 shelter beds. They have 453,000 people. And Seminole County, which is the one that has 189,000 people, they have 260 beds. I created at the Tri-County League of Cities a committee on homelessness to help our homeless services network, because it seems like everybody else, and we do care, I think we have shown that we do care, 629 shelter beds and looking for more. But it seems like everything is around the city of Orlando. Nobody else cares. Is that the perspective we should have? I think we should be looking into expanding this all over the region. Let's help each other, because by those numbers, I can see why everybody's coming to the city of Orlando and why we see ourselves with this emergency. So let's think about that for a second. We have this agreement, C and D, that talks about the city agrees to cancel public hearing for second reading of annexation if this was to happen. But if one of these items don't agreement, it's not complete agreement, so that's why we must pass this. My point is, I don't think this is a good agreement, Mayor, a good interlocal agreement, and I know we need beds for homeless. I I've been working for that for a long time, But it's fair that it's fair in doing all the efforts. We're not even getting help from the county. The only way the county would agree to give us those TDT monies is if we yield to this operation, which has no harm. It's going to have no harm on the city of Orlando. And I don't know, and I have not heard from Orange County yet, why are they against this? I mean, is this hurting them in some way, somehow? Because as far as I know, Deseret Ranch is wanting to come to the city. In the city, they're going to pay more taxes, and it would be more of a burden to us than to Orange County, so I'm surprised Orange County is not saying, let them go. Those are the questions that I have, and I don't know if people are analyzing this the same way. It's not about greed, it's not about wanting more. It's service, doing the right service for the people. People in Deseret Ranch, which I've never knew before, they came voluntarily. Nobody forced them to come in. They must have found something in the city of Orlando that they like. So let's go back to our founding fathers. Founding fathers wanted a government by the people, where property rights were respected. We don't want the government in our properties, do we? Do we want the government telling us what to do with our houses? I think we should think about this. Mayor, I'm going to vote no on this.
Okay, Commissioner Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. And not just to everyone who came out and expressed yourselves. And also I'd like to just commend our city staff for working on this interlocal agreement with the county. And I just wanted to reiterate a few things. Mayor, you mentioned that this agreement is something that just gets the ball kind of rolling to discuss if we will have a shelter at the Work Release Center. So people made mention of Section E, but I also wanted to read the part that says, its decision to open a homeless shelter at this time after the city conducts appropriate community engagement and reaches community consensus. The community to know that that process has not happened yet. All right, this agreement helps move us forward, then move to those discussions. There are a couple of things that was mentioned. I do want to mention also that the county, as I understand, is looking to establish several other homeless shelters throughout the county. I agree the county needs to do more. And I'm concerned as well if you're saying someone, Commissioner Gray, as you mentioned, coming from Apopka, then being left in Soto. That is a concern. But this facility it should be designed, and I know the Homeless Services Network, I myself am the president of the Healthcare Center for the Homeless, so I know the individuals involved. If this is going to move forward, it will, as Martha R. said, be in the state. We have to make sure that we're taking a humane approach to addressing homelessness. And all right, it's not easy addressing it, but it's definitely not easy solving homelessness, and it takes a community. I don't know where there's any community that hasn't seen an increase in the number of homeless people at their gas station, walking through the streets. That happens, but this will be a facility that will help individuals get the services they need to get them back on their feet and out of living in a situation of homelessness. Also, there was a mention of 300. There has not been an agreed capacity. All right, we say, I've heard 300. There's nowhere in the paperwork that I've received that comes from the city that says there will be a capacity of 300. All right, so I want everybody to just know that there's no final decisions on how this shelter will be operated. And I think that was but I will just highlight what the city has done. Commissioner Gray mentioned the $58 million that was committed to addressing homelessness. But when we talk about, when you see individuals who are visibly mentally not there. I think someone used that term, has invested in a community response team that you can call 911 and the appropriate resources will be sent out. Not the police, but licensed behavioral health professionals will come out and get those individuals the care that they need. There's not to this, but there's a lot of things that have to happen simultaneously for address and move individuals from living a life of homelessness to one of more self-sufficiency. So with that, Mayor, I do support this interlocal agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stewart, then Commissioner Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to cover all the details, but I do want to cover a couple of things because as with Commissioner Burns and I, we have some specific experience in dealing with the homeless issue and what we've seen. Let me just share a couple of things from my perspective. So before I kind of get off on that, let me also say thank you for those who are here that came and shared your opinion. We appreciate that. Back in 2005, Mayor Hood and Mayor Dyer asked me to work on the city's response for homelessness. We did a lot of things have happened, some have not. The first step really was to put together a regional commission to look at this as a regional issue. We did not fund that in a way from a regional funding perspective, but we felt like we could make that happen. It did not. One of the other things we recommended was up to six or more regional centers to take the burden off of downtown Orlando. That simply has not happened. And my hope in this process is that as we look at this leverage, we want to be able to get more people served outside of the downtown core. Now, here are the facts and statistics around the world. The recommendations are that every community about 0.5% beds of their population to cover those that are at need and homeless in our community. Orlando is well towards that process. Okay, Orange County is not. Apopka is not. Winter Park is not. Maitland is not. Those areas do not have and are not, as far as I know, they may be considering it in some of the things, but don't have significant plans to move forward. So when you look at a population of $50,000 for Apopka, to have 250 beds up there. If they had 250 beds, it would take the burden off of Orlando. Winter Park has got 35,000. They need to have somewhere between, I guess, I can't do the numbers real fast, but I would say it's 175 to 200 beds. Winter Park has to happen. They aren't doing that. And the burden has come back on top of Orlando to accomplish that task. Now, I will tell you that from a different standpoint, this is not inside the CRA. And you could argue that things inside the CRA, that the city and county are kind of paying for it together. Isn't that great? I mean, that's wonderful. And this is not in the CRA. And I will tell you that I can't speak for this council, but I can speak for me. I'm going to be real jealous about how you spend money. Because now when you start taking money out of general revenue and you put it into Cayley, it's taking money out of Baldwin, out of Audubon, I want to make sure that money's now being spent. Before, we have the geographical requirements for the CRA, and so you kind of had to spend the money there, and that made a lot of sense. Now all of a sudden, things are going to be spent in another area. So I want to make sure, and I will make sure, that the money is being spent wisely and spent fairly, and it's been spent from a way that we are cooperating. But I want more than anything else for this to be a catalyst for 4 or 5 or 6 other locations throughout Orange County. That's not happening. I want to hear that from Orange County, and I want to make sure that, I'll be so bold to let you know, if a sheriff drives somebody to this location, I'm kind of okay with it because it's the sheriff. If we do like happened years ago, where the city of Winter Park picked up people and the Winter Park Police Department drove them downtown, and the city of Winter Park and the city of Apopka took their police department and drove to downtown Orlando and dropped somebody off. I'm going to tell you, we're going to come unglued because those communities ought to take care of their own, and they aren't. And because they aren't, it comes on us and becomes on the city. And the city has done an incredible job, all things considered. But this is actually the role of the county. What should have happened was the county should come to the city and say, we're going to do this facility. Why don't you help us because you're in the city? And that's not the case. We've had to take and push this issue because the county has pushed it aside and put, as in my opinion, has pushed it aside and pushed it aside. And now we have the opportunity for a medical facility nearby that we could become complementary to. But at the same time, that facility I don't believe, has made a fair investment into the homeless issue as other facilities have made in town. If they had, they'd be stepping up and saying, we'll put together this plan, we'll help you accomplish this task because it's going to impact us. And so I know I'm rambling, I apologize, but there's a lot of things that are happening here, and I want to make sure, and Mayor, I've shared this with staff as they brief me. There are a lot of issues that we have to address, and those issues really are, how are we going to deal with the county to create a superior example here so that that can be modeled in Apopka and Winter Park, and I'll go as far as going to Oviedo, and it's Martha knows this from the research that we have done from over time. There are towns in California who declare they do not have a homeless issue. And the reasons for that is on January, roughly about 28th of every year, the day before the homeless count, they pick up all the homeless people and they drive them to the county seat. And it takes the homeless people to take about 2 or 3 days to come back. And during that time, they count. And they can't find anything. And so they then declare to the community that we are homeless free. I think that's what's happening around our community as we see outlying communities declaring how wonderful life is. And if you actually show up there and show up on an odd day, you'll find there are people there that need to be served. And they ought to be served in that area because that's where they're from. Jim, I'll mention one comment to you. We find out the general rule of thumb, although it's probably, I would guess, I'm a little bit off the numbers, but the general rule of thumb is if somebody is from Apopka and driven to Orlando, they will eventually migrate back to Apopka because their home is Apopka. If they have a reason to stay in downtown for services, they will stay. But if somebody's picking them up and dropping them off, they will find a way back to Apopka. They'll find a way back to their home. We did a homeless services a survey and found out that 85% of the people that we dealt with, especially primarily men, primarily those taking an evening meal at the coalition, 85% of people had been in Orlando for longer than a year and considered Orlando their home. And so the idea was we were trying to offset this idea that people migrate here, and that's what the problem is. It's their home. Housing is the single biggest issue. If we can get this portion housed, this portion addressed, there are other ways that we can try to eat this elephant. But this is a good way for us to bring to the table all those issues and concerns we have with Orange County in such a way that we can see a real regionally funded regional approach to homelessness. So, and with that, Mayor, I'm going to support it, and we'll be riding herd on how we move forward.
Okay. Commissioner Gray.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And Robert, thank you for that. You're an expert at it. I'm not, so I'll take your word for that. But here seems to be the underlying tone to me. And we've been speaking about homelessness in this community for a long time. And like it or not here to say blame, but yeah, Orange County has not, in my opinion only, stepped up to their role for that. So how about, and I'll be glad to make a motion, see if I see some nods, but how about we approve this agreement? We need the TDT dollars. As the mayor said, it's an economic incentive for all of Central Florida, not just the city, but we need those. But if the county is really committed to homeless providing homeless services. Let's include it in this agreement, and we'll add another paragraph that says within the next, and I'm open to suggestions, the next 3 to 4 years, the county agrees to provide, if I use half Robert's math of half of 1%, that's 1,500 units within the next 3 to 4 years. So let's push it back to the county and say, okay, you've proposed an agreement, we'll accept your agreement, but we want you to help out. And why don't you guys agree to, in the next 4 to 5 years, or whatever the magic number is, and I don't know, I'll leave that to the experts, you agree to provide that throughout the county, wherever that might be. And if they don't want to do that, then we pretty much know where the county stands on their commitment to homelessness.
Commissioner, this is a pretty good deal for us. The county has already voted on this. The last thing I want to do is send an amended agreement back to the county.
Well, Mayor, I understand. I think the reason they voted, it's a pretty good agreement for the county. I'm not saying it's so good for the city. That's my point. That's all I'm saying, sir.
Yeah, I differ with that 100%.
Okay. You may not agree. I'm saying I think it's good for the county. I don't know what again, the thing that troubles me is if the county has had this for 5 years and they haven't stepped up with all the emphasis on homelessness, either there's an issue there or they're not committed to it. And I don't know what it is, but I want to flush it out and say, if you're committed to it, you don't have to use this. You've got the whole county. Figure out a spot you want to do it.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, item D does talk about the tourist development tax, which they had agreed already, especially with our Camping World, that we're going to pay on the bonds that we were issuing, right? So they were already paying. All we're doing is we're just advancing this to happen now. Am I correct on that?
No, with that.
We have, no,
The
what I'm
only
saying
thing
is,
that has happened with the county is they have said that within the tourist development tax plan, this would be an appropriate use of funding. They have not voted to fund it.
no, I'm saying about originally, before this, they had agreed to pay on the bonds that were issuing Camping World.
Not on the future bonds.
The future bonds, exactly.
Not on the future.
You mean the PAT bonds?
On the PAT bonds, exactly. So we need an extra 400 millions?
The original deal, the city issued the bonds, and the county later took the bonds out and took them over.
Okay. So now Mayor, the TDT money is going to come back, because, I mean, those are the main banks in the city. They're going to be coming for that, be used for that anyhow. This is kind of redundant. They're utilizing this as a tool, but it's just not. I don't see that that's a real tool, and that's not something we should be exchanging for. That's my very personal opinion about that, because we are producing a lot. I mean, they're not gonna ignore the second largest revenue maker when it comes to the TDT, so.
Commissioner, we started the process in February of '23. Count the months. We're 20 months in to trying to get TDT. We probably lost the Georgia-Florida game because we were not able to bring the TDT forward to move the Camping World Stadium forward. I don't want to lose the Jags by not moving the Jags 2027 season that we're likely to get if we don't move this agreement forward and come to a conclusion on the tourist development tax.
That bill that we negotiated for has been empty or idle for 7 years. Obviously, the county showing a very good propensity on movement. And, this is something that could be dedicated a long time ago and dedicated to the homeless. And like I said before, they only had how many beds? 60.
You know what, Commissioner? Sometimes you have to lose.
We've been leading, sir. We've been leading for a long time. We have to find people also, because they're going to keep abusing that leadership.
Well, I wouldn't suggest that downing is the way to do it. It's not the way to do it.
I'm just expressing my opinion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none on fire. All indicate so by motion, indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Aye. Passes. More item of business before us. Give people that want to stray from the council chambers right now the ability to do so. No, we'll just let these folks leave then. Okay, you know that we had a hurricane a few weeks ago, and we are cleaning up debris, and I thought our Commissioner Stewart asked that we have an update on our debris collection. So Alan Morse, our solid waste manager, is here today to give us that update.
Good? We're good? All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for allowing me these few minutes to period of time. We've worked with and encountered two major downtown events. Now we're moving into, we got a major concert coming into play, and we're in the planning stages and working around through that. And then, of course, the Florida Classic coming up here in a few weeks as well, too. So, and then in addition to all that, we have all that the events. Okay. By no means has this not been an enormous taking. And I have numbers to prove that. Okay. We serve street miles in the city of Orlando. And on those street miles, there are over 60,000 homes, and every resident deserves a few minutes, what used to be a few minutes of time, to collect their waste. Now those minutes have turned into as much as a half hour, 45 minutes. Just to throw a couple other things out there, on a normal work week, our guys work 40, 45 hours a week. Now, 75 hours a week. I've even had guys hit 80 hours a week. We are out there doing it. We are pushing it. We're running 6-7 days a week. And a couple of weeks ago, we had outside contractors join us. And at that time, our crews have generated or collected over 600 tons a week. Now, to put that in perspective, we're doing in a day what we used to do in a week. Okay? So we normally do a couple hundred tons a week. Now we're up over 600. We're doing 3 times the amount of work that we normally do. So it's an impressive amount of debris that we're collecting, but this is a very slow process. And now what everybody wants to know, when will we be done? Okay? So when we first looked at this, we expected it to take about 60 days to get it done, from start to finish, and we get back to normal. I feel like that we're better than 50% beyond. My team, my solid waste division, and our outside contractors, we should be or will be through with our first pass by the end of this week. And then not every community, not every home needs a first pass, but that's the way we're progressing. So that being said, my projection for us to be done is going to be around that's what we're projecting. Just so you know, I'm very confident in our people. I'm very impressed the way they've stepped up. I have asked them to perform, and they are performing. I'm very confident in the process that we're making, because we're making headway. And it may not look like it sometimes, but just because we're not in this area, we are in an area. Just because we're not on your street, we're on somebody else's street. We are doing it. I'm very confident in the direction that we're going. The progress and the progress that we made. If you get a chance, just drive down Andes Avenue by the executive airport. It'll show you what we've done in this area. And again, I'm proud of the women that work for our solid waste division. We're being safe as we do it. We've had no injuries to speak of, and truly grateful, truly grateful. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Commissioner Ortiz, Commissioner Burns.
There we go. Al, I just want to say, I know you have a big challenge in your hands, and I know it has not been easy, but I cannot say enough. You always respond, you always answer, you're always there, and that goes a long, long way. And I really appreciate what you're doing in your service. And thank you for every time I call you and bug you about something, always being there and always helping our people. I really thank you.
Well, thank you very
Great
much.
job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Stewart.
Yes, I actually wanted to say the same thing as Commissioner Ortiz said. Thank you for your responsiveness, and we know it's a huge task, but I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. And I've asked my residents that we know that they're coming. And I thank you for the daily reports that we get. So I know it's going to be tomorrow in my district. I don't think we've ever had level of communication. So I want to say thank you for that, and just thank you for being responsive.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner Stewart.
And let me also reiterate, thank you, Alan. Like with Tony, every time I call you phone calls, I turn my phone calls, and I appreciate and respond. I think that's important. I think that my brain goes to process so fast. I think part of the challenges that we have is that when you go to the city's website, it says if you haven't been picked up, fill this form out. Mm-hmm. And so we have provided a very high level of service over the course of the past 10, 15, 20 years. So as people file a complaint, they're expecting to get an answer.
Right.
It seems to me that we just need to reinforce that here's the progress, here's where we think we are, here's where we think we ought to be going. That's where I think the frustration from our staff is that from our constituents is that I haven't seen anybody on my block for 5 weeks. You asked me to put it in bags, but the bags are still there. That's the kind of stuff that I'm hearing back and forth, so I think we continue to get the message out of here's our progress, here's where we're going, and I think our constituents will be safe. We'll be patient with us if we can continue to communicate with them. But that's only my challenge is the challenge of communication. I know it's going to take 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks to make some serious progress. They don't see it that way, but we see it from more of an organizational structure issue and 120 miles of roads that we have to pick up and still get all the rest of the stuff. If they've been picking up regular garbage and recycling, I think we can make a pretty big dent in this, right?
And actually, that being said, we've not missed any other service either. We're continuously out doing those. And again, I am pushing our people, and they are responding. I just hope we can get into that thing. I feel very confident in the team that we have. And to your point, the data that we're listening to you on those dailies, we're going to take it up a notch and make sure that what we're reporting is accurate for you. Okay, and it appears that there could have been some missteps there, but I'll get that corrected this afternoon too.
Well, let me share with the council our conversation earlier that in the middle of a complaint from somebody in one particular neighborhood, happened to be in my district, who said, "I cannot believe you haven't picked up my garbage." A next door neighbor called and said, "Thank you so much for picking up our garbage."
Absolutely. Yeah.
It happened, it literally happens the same day, and like, no matter what you do, you can't win.
Right.
And we want to support you as much as we possibly can. So.
I can say this: we run the third largest call. Headways, we continue to do it. So, and we're in this till it's over. I promise you that. I promise you.
Thanks. Great.
Alan, make sure you go back and tell everybody that we appreciate them.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay, that is the conclusion of the scheduled things. Ed, you want to get us ready for general appearances?